Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Landscape North. Today, I've got the pleasure of having Kim Parker on the show. So, before we get started with the questions, Kim, maybe you could give a quick intro on who you are and what you do.
Hi, great. Well, thank you, Chris, very much for having me in your podcast. My name is Kim Parker. I am the CEO and co-founder of Food Security Structures Canada. Yeah, it's very exciting to be here. This is my first podcast, so
Oh, cool. All right.
hopefully I don't mess up too awful much. We do webinars and I've done radio interviews, but yeah, this is my first podcast, so be gentle.
Okay, I will. Can you tell me a little bit more about Food Security Structures Canada?
Yeah, so Food Security Structures Canada is a company that was created by my partner, Greg Whiteside, and I just over a year ago. It's a company that's focused on producing uh, indoor agricultural structures and
Okay,
the growing systems that go into them to help address food security in locations that maybe are challenged with being able to produce food locally all year long. So communities in the far north, communities that have any type of environmental challenges, so drought, uh, rain, heat, cold, pretty much anything.
okay,
What these structures that we create are able to do is bring the growing inside into a controlled environment and produce high yield crops all year long to help a community address food security.
okay. So one of the questions is, as you said, it just started a year ago. Why did you get involved?
Yeah, it's a great story, actually. The company that we're working with is a company that is international. We're working with their office out of Miami, and the company's called Green Magic Homes.
Okay,
And for a number of years, they've been building home structures, housing structures, using an amazing fiber reinforced polymer structure.
okay.
They're modular houses. They're meant to be earth covered
Oh, okay.
and
Yep.
landscaped on top of them because that adds to their insulative value. They're amazing houses. And about, I guess it was about 18 months ago, Greg and I actually went to see one of these houses down in Marietta, Georgia. And it was an amazing experience going into these houses because the first thing I thought of when I'd seen these things online, I thought they looked really cool. The technology seemed amazing. The obviously eco-friendliness of them was pretty cool. But I kept thinking, until I actually go inside one,
Right.
what are these things like? And so when we went to Georgia, we flew down there, we saw one. They're fantastic. They're just an amazing feeling being in them. So we were very excited about it. Greg is actually building a house in Panama using the technology. And shortly after our visit down to Georgia, the company shared with us that they were launching an agricultural division of the company. So they have their residential units, they have a whole um, hotel division, which is amazing, and they've got some great things happening there. But they saw the application in agriculture, and they wanted to help address food security. So that's when they brought it forward to Greg, and they told him about it. And knowing that I had done some work in the north with communities and had volunteered and done a lot of work in food security in other areas, it just seemed like a good fit. And Greg
Right.
and I have known each other 20 years. So when he saw this technology become available, it just felt like the right thing at the right time for us. So that's when we launched the company. We were using the Green Magic Homes exterior structure, which was so key to the success of the system that we put together. But then we said, look, if we're going to northern communities or remote communities that are looking to address food insecurity and the challenges that they're facing, we need to make sure that the systems that are going inside the unit are best in class. They've got to be able to travel to the far north. They've got to be able to ship and assemble easily, but they've also got to be high yield, easy on energy resources because some of the communities we were going into are still on diesel generators.
Right.
So they can't be energy draws. They've got to be very self-sufficient. So we spent a fair bit of time doing our research, meeting with companies, and really finding the best technology for remote applications and in any application, because whether it be urban or rural, remote, wherever you may be, these systems have got to be able to produce tons of food without drawing energy, and to be able to have a self-sustaining ecosystem within themselves. And so that's what we've created over the last year.
Cool. Well, one of the things you hit on there was the urban side, and a lot of the listeners to the podcast and the clients that I deal with are landscape architects.
Right.
One of the challenges I see in the marketplace is food security in urban settings, because everything has to be transported in. How would your system work for an urban application, either a rooftop application or a existing abandoned warehouse facility?
Yeah, that's a great point, Chris, because although we initially did our research looking at the communities that we felt were highest risk at this time, some of the northern Canadian communities are flying communities, and if they don't get their food in, there is none.
Right.
And you look at the prices that they had. But by doing that research and identifying high production systems that were so efficient, that technology can be applied anywhere. Our systems can be used in rooftop applications, and it's actually a really great application because they are very light and easy to assemble. They can be placed on a rooftop. And what I think is the most powerful about that is that rather than just gardening horizontally on a rooftop and making use of whatever your growing season may be wherever you are, and up here in Canada, that can be a very limited growing season. Well, by putting the agri-tunnel on the roof, you now create the indoor agricultural opportunity that can grow 365 days a year. And then you can also create that outdoor growing opportunity as well, that you can place outdoor gardens around the agri-tunnel. Sure. You're also, in the outdoor application, you can earth cover on the rooftop, depending on where you are and what your rooftop is like. You could even cover the agri-tunnel with ground cover to help with your carbon sequestering, to be able to focus on that carbon reduction as well as food production. We have a couple of renderings that we've done up that have the agri-tunnel on the roof, as well as beautiful gathering spaces for the residents of the building, using the outdoor space, and then grass covering the agri-tunnel as well. So it really can be very integrated into the urban setting. They can be assembled either permanent structures or removable, or I use the word portable, but it just seems that they can be lifted. They don't have to be there permanently. But you can put them on a parking lot. You can reuse them as infill in existing communities. Okay. They can also be put, as you mentioned, inside other buildings. So if you've got a building that is looking to be repurposed, it's a great way to do that because you're creating that growing envelope inside that existing structure. So again, you're reducing the amount of insulation that you need, but you're able to control that moisture, the humidity, the temperature that you need. Sure. Without having to worry about heating. Often in large spaces, you're dealing with great big air spaces, and therefore you're dealing with heat loss. Sure. Yep. Well, you create that inside envelope, and all of a sudden now you're able to repurpose that space. So whether it's an industrial space or a mall or a plaza of some type of configuration, you're able to work with that. And the great thing about the agri-tunnels, they're really cool with the RFP panels that they use. They're almost like Legos that you can create whatever configuration you'd like. They can be as long as you like. You can connect them sideways. Yeah, they're really, really flexible and very amazing.
And one of the things I was thinking about when you're talking there was retirement homes, because typically what happens is, I mean, as you retire, you've have, as we both know, you and myself, we both have gardens that we like to maintain. Yeah. And so when you're retired, you move into a retirement home and you miss out on having that garden. So this could be a good way that you could combine the active use of 365 days of gardening, yeah, for retirement residents, and food security for the retirement home, for the food services that they provide as well.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing is that, a lot of retirement homes or different communities like that, they often want to add a greenhouse to be able to create that atmosphere. Right. And there's been tremendous research done about horticultural therapy and how wonderful it is for Alzheimer's and dementia, as well as actually they've said with gardening, arthritis, again, working with the soil, sure, it can be really powerful. So they often want to go to a greenhouse. And I always say that's a great opportunity We actually look for communities and locations where people maybe are already doing some greenhouse gardening, but they want to take it to that next step. Because greenhouses, while they're great, and I love mine dearly, they're only accessible during certain times of the
Sure.
year.
Yeah.
And because of their structure, they lose a lot of heat. And so, or in other times of the year, they're too much heat.
Right.
So this is the opportunity to take that one step further and to increase the production to the point where, yes, it can actually feed a community. The volume of food that we get out of our 1,000 square foot unit, it's a basic measurement. We start with about 1,000 square feet. We can make them smaller, we can make them bigger. But the 1,000 square foot unit can produce more than 2 acres of land.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's amazing, the production, because we're growing vertically and aeroponically. So we're
Okay.
getting multiple harvests, we're getting far higher yield, and we're not dealing with climate issues. So we're able to create the optimum growing atmosphere for the plants, so we get much higher production.
Amazing.
But they're amazing, the units. 1,000 square foot unit, depending on what you're growing, can sustain anywhere from 500 to 650 people approximately. Again, it depends on the community, depends on the crops that you're growing. But yeah, they can be very self-sustaining, and there's a great business model with them. They're able to return a profit and be a profitable business for a community as well. It's not just about creating food, but if you can imagine, if you're looking at your
Oh, yeah.
example with your retirement home, I mean, the freshness, the nutrition of being able to harvest and walk it to the kitchen,
Sure,
as
exactly.
opposed to shipping in from, you know, very long distances, as we often see in the current
Right.
food chain.
Hmm.
So it's amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that solves that question. And so from a landscape architecture standpoint, I mean, these can be incorporated into a ground level, a parking garage, a rooftop application. So they have a full circle of benefits, either for urban or either rural type applications
All right. Yeah.
incorporated
And I
into
think
the
I
city
think
park.
even with a rural application, what we're seeing a lot of, and I think COVID has made it very, very clear for people that our current food production and distribution systems, there's cracks showing. They have weaknesses. So the decentralization of food production is really prevalent right now. I think it was always there. There were a lot of discussions happening in recent years about it, but this has made it very, very clear. So whether it's agri-tunnels in an urban setting to be able to help address that, or I see agri-tunnels having an application in the rural setting closer to the urban setting.
Right.
So even though you may be shipping in still, you're much closer. Again, you look at that maybe 50-kilometer
Yep.
radius that you're able to bring that production much closer.
Perfect.
To where you are. Yeah.
And on that, I guess last point would be, where do you see the future of food security in Canada or even in North America trending at this point in time?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of work, North America, Canada, but also internationally. We've got a couple of projects we're working on in Australia and a couple in Africa in particular. I think that what I'm seeing is a reconnection to food production. People aren't taking it for granted as much as they used to. I think, as I say,
Yeah.
with COVID, people are going to the stores and are shocked when they're not able to see the variety and the quantity of food that they're used to seeing.
Right.
So I think there's going to be a real trend to looking at that decentralization and helping to create the stability that we need within the food system. I also think that there's been a real shift in the consumer in the last few years, wanting to know where their food's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, we see it in a lot of the restaurants and things where we're seeing local is a
Yeah.
much bigger focus. And I think that's going to continue to grow as people become more aware and more connected with their food. So I think there's going to be a lot more focus on how can we bring food production more local. Are we able to produce that variety locally? And that's one thing I'm very excited about with the agri-tunnels, is that because you're able to create any climate that you need and any food production style that you're looking for, we really are able to do just about any crop. We're able to do everything from leafy greens all the way up to citrus and dwarf apple trees and pretty much anything that you could need. We're running about I think last count 45 different crops that we're able to grow in the agri-tunnel and have successfully grown
Nice.
in the agri-tunnel, and that is just continuing to expand as we try new and different
Yeah.
crops. I get asked, I think almost every day, I'm talking to different clients going, have you tried this? And what about this? And it's great. And our test farm that we have down in Pennsylvania, we run up against something that we haven't done. They start a crop for us. I think we started blueberries 2 weeks ago. So
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, it's
Cool.
fantastic. We've had great success with strawberries, but now we've added blueberries,
Okay.
which is really cool. So I really see an interest in people in bringing food local and maximizing that production. And that's exciting to see. I think for too many years we got very disconnected
Yeah.
from the food that we eat, and I'm hopefully that's going to change. And if we can envision that as part of any design that we're doing, is we're rethought the outdoor beauty of the spaces that we're creating, communities that have walking scores and local connections.
Yeah.
And I think food production is going to be part of that going forward. So, yeah.
So if someone wants to reach out and find out more information, Kim, what's the best way to track you down and ask some more questions?
Absolutely. Well, we're on LinkedIn.
Okay.
We have our website as well, foodsecuritystructures.ca. We've got our contact information there. And yeah, I'd love to chat with folks if they have any questions. We have all the calculations on being able to put the roof top units in place, because of course there's weight considerations with that, which has been really exciting because we grow aeroponically, which is really light, which
Absolutely.
is nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd love to chat with anybody if they have specific questions. But definitely the other site I would encourage people to check out is Green Magic Homes.
Okay.
So you can find out more about the actual RFP panels, how they're assembled, and how they can be integrated into communities. So.
Perfect. Okay, well, this podcast will be uploaded onto LinkedIn and also onto YouTube. I'll put those links in the comment section, and I'll attach some pictures and schematics as well for those people that are interested. If you've got more interesting podcasts that you want to see on Landscape North, please send me a message. And thanks for your time today, Kim, and let you get back to gardening.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Chris, and thank you for your time for this, and have a wonderful spring day.
Thanks, you too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.